Miss LaRose. In this video, I'm going to show you how to do shaving cream printmaking. This is a project I typically do with kindergarten at school, but I'm doing it in my house. So I have a paper grocery bag to protect my counter space, and I coated a cookie sheet in foil. Next, I spread foam shaving cream over the whole thing. It has to be foam, not gel. For the color, I use just regular food coloring. Any type of food coloring will work for this. I picked 3 colors to start with: purple, blue, and pink. And these are the colors I'm going to mix together. I would recommend sticking with colors that are similar to each other so that you don't get a mucky color unless you really want a mucky color. You could mix this with your hands, but I prefer to use a chopstick or a paintbrush, anything so that it doesn't get the food coloring all over my skin, just to keep it from being too messy. If you don't mind it being messy, it's fine to mix it with your hands. This is just the way I prefer to do it. Now that I've swirled it around, it's very purpley blue. It's easier to see a lot of the blue, so I wanted to add a little bit of extra color to it. And to balance that out, I made a little bit more pink visible in the mixture. So before we start printing, you want to make sure you like the colors that you have. And my camera in the room that I filmed this in changes the light a little bit so the colors aren't as true to what they actually are. So that's going to make a difference. Now, after it's mixed, you press a piece of paper on top of it and then peel that paper up, and the color in the shaving cream will have transferred all swirled up onto the paper. You can do this as many times as you want. You could mix in more colors if you want. You could draw in the shaving cream to change the pattern of the print. I am doing that right now. And these lines are going to create some sort of curved, swirly areas in my next print. Sometimes when you pull it up, if you don't press hard enough, there will be some white areas. Those are fine. You could repress it if you want to get rid of them though. After I pulled a few prints, I wanted to add a little bit more color in, so I added a 4th color and put some green in there this time. Not too much new color though, because too many colors all at once is going to turn it brownish gray or kind of sludgy looking. So keep it under 5 colors to stop that from happening. Now I'm just going to print a bunch of pieces in a row. You don't have to print on white. You could also print on other colored paper. I would recommend using lighter colors. I have never printed on a dark color, so I don't know what that would look like. When you're done, you can just crumple up the foil and toss it, and that makes for easy cleanup. Now, I'm going to show you how to clear the shaving cream off. When you do this, you will end up with an extra pile of shaving cream that used to be on top of the paper. We're going to scrape it off. You can use any straight edge object. I'm using a ruler. I'm scraping off all of the extra shaving cream, and that reveals the design left behind. If you are cleaning up, just rinse all that extra shaving cream down the drain. I am going to save it in a little pile on my grocery bag so that I can show you what you can do with the leftover shaving cream. Keep scraping until there's no visible spots of shaving cream on your paper, and then you can set it aside to dry out. Here's a print I did on yellow. I'm just going to scrape that off, and you can see those colors also showed up really well on this one. Every time I scrape it off, the design is going to be a little bit different, because every time you pull up the shaving cream, you change the way that it looks. So none of these are going to be exactly the same, and I think that that's really cool about them. I'm not sure what my favorite part of the project is, but it's always nice to see what the design looks like when it's all finished. But the shaving cream feels cool, scraping it off is pretty fun, looking at it is neat. Cleaning up is even pretty easy because the shaving cream just dissolves in water, really simple. Now I want to show what you can do with the shaving cream that was scraped off all of the first round of prints. My shaving cream is pretty dry and fluffy. It depends on the brand that you get. If it's really wet still, it will still work for this. If it's drier than this, it probably won't. But you can press another paper on top of that pile of extra shaving cream as long as you can still see the color in it, and then just get a few more prints out of that process. So this is just me printing the extras. At school I do this step for if there are any students missing on the day that we do this project, so that we'll have extra papers in case they didn't get to do this step. And having a few extra fancy papers is going to be really helpful for me when I'm creating other art projects. Another thing you can do with this is, if you don't mind getting it all over your hands, is print it on both sides of your piece of paper, which can be kind of cool. You can double print it as well if you want the colors to change the pattern that they printed on the first time. Just experiment with it a little bit, see what you like. If you're not a fan of the feeling of shaving cream, then maybe this isn't the project for you. You can also move it around so that other patches of color are showing, which can change how they turn out. I'm starting to run out at this point, so I don't think I'm going to pull very many more prints out of this, but I wanted to show you that you can still use the scrap from this before you do a cleanup. Now I'm just going to scrape all of this up off of my paper bag and throw it away. You could also wash it down the drain. This paper is a paper that I let dry with the shaving cream on it. If you do that, you can wipe it off with a paper towel before turning it into a new project, now that it's a fancy pattern paper. But it will create lots of dust if you do it with a lot of papers. Here's just me showing off the paper that I decorated with this method after it's all dry. So you can see all of them are unique. They have similar colors, but none of them are 100% the same. These are good for scrapbooking, turning into other projects. You could even make origami with them if you wanted to, paper sculpture. I'm going to make some cards with this paper. I've also used it to cut into wacky shapes and create monsters and creatures. It's really up to you. Once you make it, it could be a project on its own.